31st of July 2008. This is when the reality of this dream was coming to light, I would say. This is the evening, the fifth evening of that 31st of July back in 2008. At JKIA, seeing our family, very excited, not knowing what to expect, with a group of friends that we had known each other for a couple of weeks, as we had met basically over some series of interviews when we were being screened for this dream that we were all chasing. Then here we are at the airport. Highs and byes to family, at the boarding gate, very excited, but again, very, very, very nervous, not knowing what to expect. But again, obviously, there were a lot of expectations of this. But again, the thought that was running through the minds were, how is it all going to begin? We've left the family back. It's the first encounter that the family has. Seeing off one of their own, quite young, ambitious, but also looks very nervous of what to expect. But here I am with friends that actually was giving the confidence of I'm not alone in this. A couple of us, but again, we were in the same kind of situation of having that. I would say more of nervous than being scared, if I maybe remember it right. But again, talking over it, not going through it alone. Then here we are, boarded the plane. We set for nearly 5 hours flight to this dreamland where we all were very excited and looking forward to it. The beauty of it is that I remember we flew at night, landed in Dubai International Airport at around almost, if I remember well, around 2 or 3 in the morning. The city of lights. I remember the skyline at night. Blue was off. We were all, not all of us had that window seat, but I remember a few of us that actually had the privilege of sitting on a window seat. I remember talking about it, how beautiful it looked, from the skies, and the air view was just breathtaking. Then here we are, landed, all through the process of the arrivals, especially being the first time. All of us it was our first time here, so the process of arrival is slightly different from the usual or the residents here. So we had to queue for the actual visas that were being picked up at the airport. I remember back then. Then queued, waited for each other. I remember there were 7 of us. Then we took our luggages that we didn't know who was waiting for us on the other side, though we were briefed already of someone, the representative of the company that we were working for, who was waiting with with banners, actually with the placard written the name of the company we were hired with. Actually, that was expecting us. So then that was the exciting part. And then what even gave us a little bit of confidence was, at the airport, I remember seeing a lot of banners of the company that actually hired us, and that gave us some sort of confidence. Wow, it seems to be like it's a big thing, we're looking at the name of the company, running banners on advert boards, that kind of gave us the confidence of, wow, that's the company that we're coming to work for. So it kind of gave us the confidence and kind of that absorbed the nervousness that we had. Then I remember seeing on the other side 2-3 people. I remember very well, not sure of the actual number, but one of them was holding a placard written the name of the company, welcoming us, welcome on board. And then we all were there, introduced ourselves. They kind of reconfirmed that everyone was there, that they weren't expecting. Yes, we all were there, and none of us was left back. Then, right at the exit of the airport, the heat wave that hit us there, wow, that was a different thing. Something to talk about the weather. It was a peak of summer here, so being July, so it was extremely hot at one point. And I remember some of us were really dressed up. It's the first time we're coming here to a different country. Some of us had like we were really well dressed. Some of us were dressed in casuals. I remember myself. I was in a jacket. I remember. Not sure if I remember if I had a necktie or not, but I was really well dressed. You know, kind of that fast impression that I wanted to give was showcased. Um, then took out jackets. We felt comfortable. We made feel very comfortable. We boarded this van that took us, then drove us to actually now then the accommodation where we were supposed to be settling in. Very beautiful, well arranged. Before we were taken into each, we had different rooms obviously, but before we take into this different rooms, we were taken to. I remember one. It was kind of like a hall, or if I can put it like a lounge that was set up. That had a TV, that had couches there, refreshments there. It was very early in the morning. I remember around 4 o'clock. Then we were told that there's a small welcome setup that was prepared for us just before we settled into our rooms where we were being directed to. So we were welcomed, very much welcomed. We had, I remember, cold towels prepared there. We had, all sorts of soft beverages there with snacks, sandwiches. It made us feel really, really, really special. And I can actually attest to the nervousness that we did have individually, personally, that I felt so comfortable. I felt so welcomed. The only thing that was really bothering me at that time was how can I communicate back home that we arrived safely and that we were welcome. There were people waiting for us, and we were not stranded at the airport. I couldn't talk about the weather. I couldn't wait to talk about the weather. My first impression of the weather at that time. Then everything was fine. The lounge, we all kind of settled down, briefed the rooms that we were going to be occupying, that we were going to be staying in. Before that, we were asked to just be comfortable and ourselves. We had some refreshments. We were going to introduce and briefed about the next morning because having arrived very early in the morning, so we needed to take some rest. But before that, I remember we all were just seated there talking, and I think until around 6 in the morning or around 6:30, that's when everyone kind of was now kind of being directed to where they were staying. I remember three of us guys were meant to stay in one apartment. It was a one-bedroom apartment, but we were sharing that, and the rest had some of them had individual or studios, and some had also shared, just like us. So we weren't far from where we were staying. Actually, it was in the same building. We just had a different floor where me and two of my friends had been informed that we were going to stay, and we got there. Boom again. When we got into the apartment, it was really well set up. We had everything you can imagine that you would need, especially to go somewhere new. Like you had towels, we had all sort of everything, like we had refreshments and features. So I've stocked up already. Our beds were all spread. We had bed sheets, extra bed sheets there, extra linen, new towels, refreshments, even toothpaste, toothbrushes there. We had everything that we needed. So we were made to feel super, super, super comfortable. I remember at this point, we were asking ourselves, how do we communicate? We didn't have internet connection, obviously. Our lines still had our Kenyan lines, so none of us could communicate. So this is the nervousness that we had to communicate, that we were safely, we're taken care of. And I can imagine back home, our parents were super nervous. They didn't know how to communicate to us. They didn't have any contact numbers here to reach out to kind of communicate with us. And this is the exact same thing we were all together. But I remember one of the attendants at this housing told us that the next morning at around 10, once we were all awake and settled, and we were told where we were going to have breakfast, which was arranged obviously by them, again, very kind of them. We were told we would be guided to where we could purchase SIM cards with our passports, so we could communicate and have local contact numbers. So that made us feel very, very comfortable. So we all kind of went separately to the apartments that we were going to settle in, or that were going to be our new homes. we refreshed. I remember we refreshed ourselves, took a nap, and then slept over this nervousness, so we're not knowing what to expect the very next morning. And I remember we really it took us we I think we took a nap of about an hour and a half or maybe barely 2 hours, because we all kept talking about how we felt when we arrived here, which was amazing, and that was really really something that I can account for. Like, our arrival here was amazing. It was we were well looked after, and we felt very, very, very comfortable. I remember the nervousness that we all came with kind of vanished, and we were just kind of curious, and we couldn't wait to make it back to our families, or everyone else that we had left back home to this new place. And I remember we were told we would be having 2 days to settle down before we actually reported to the company, basically, to for kind of an induction that we would be taken through. There was a whole program that we were actually given, and each of us had kind of a brief of this placed on our beds. Basically, what the program was like: 2 fast days just to rest, to settle in, and to kind of get everything we needed. And that was something really, really, really great to highlight. Morning after, basically taking this hour and a half nap, but honestly, for me, felt like hours of sleep, like a normal sleep, because we went to sleep feeling so relaxed, I would say, as much as the nervousness was still there, because you also don't know what to wake up to, what to expect this next morning. But obviously, we were kind of briefed already. We were meant to have breakfast. Again, there were light meals, but I would say it was enough, because it was, there was enough in it for a breakfast, right? Like even fruits and all. And also remember the fridge in the apartment that we were staying in, that we were sharing, basically, the three of us, was also stocked up with, I think, enough stuff to take us through a week or two. So we were okay. And also remember, we also brought some stuff here and there from home. So, and plus we sharing this apartment with us, so we were all okay. So this morning, I remember around 10 o'clock, we were already, went and met the rest of the other colleagues that we came with as well. We were all there at breakfast. There were a few other people from also other nationalities that had actually converged there as well. They had actually come some days before us. Apparently, that was a week of most of the arrivals. Some few had come maybe like over 3 weeks before us, so were more settled. So we all were briefed after the breakfast. We remember the one of the attendants at the housing had mentioned or had briefed us where we could purchase this local SIM card. So everyone actually was waiting for the moment to go purchase or buy that SIM card. We all had our passports on us, so we were taken there. It's quite a short distance, but we were taken in a van. I remember, because again the weather, as I told you, it's a peak of summer. It was very hot, so we were taken there. It's about I remember it was about 6-7 minutes drive within the same vicinity where we were actually staying. So we went there, purchased the SIM cards for a fair price. It actually came loaded in with 3 minutes. I remember 20 minutes with some data enough to take you through a day or two, which was great. So we loaded the SIM cards. Everyone immediately got onto calls, messages. I remember making that call home. The excitement of them just waiting to hear or see a foreign number ringing them, and they definitely would. It was like that voice of video of finding. They were all you're right, safe. How was everything? Are you guys looked after? Those usual questions, especially that you want to know. Fast, is it okay? Does it sound okay? Is everything fine? Are you guys safe? No, and especially this is part of the continent where people have different perceptions. Again, that is something we can always talk about much later. Again, they all are fine. Obviously, I didn't have that much time or airspace to airtime rather to talk about the whole arrival. But again, it was great to hear them on the other side waiting to hear how we arrived, we were looked after. I told them we felt like, royalty, like everything was just flowing, and how kind the people are here. It was great to also have a few of hours as well around here, that we had come with. So it didn't really feel lonely per se. There was a lot of curiosity trying to make and, trying to meet new faces, new friends, people getting to know each other. Then we had a day before we could now report to the actual workplace. So again, they went, kind of spend time just around the place we were living, at the social place where there was TV, there was, refreshments, through the day that we could have. People getting to know each other more, and then obviously connecting us as well with friends and family. I remember that place, there was internet connection, but only that social common place where we could all meet or converge, especially when we were having the meals. So again, the connection was there. Met, spoke to family. Then it was a day just before we report to the workplace. That was actually, I remember saying we had 2 days just before we reported to work. Then we had the schedules actually off the buses that would take us actually all together at the workplace. We all were going at the same timing. I remember we were meeting at around 7:30 and the buses were going through until 8 o'clock. And the sessions at work were meant to start at 9, so there was enough time to actually go. So it was great, it was not that much of a big team. I would estimate about maybe 50 people in total. So we took the buses the next morning, got to the workplace. The welcoming again was another amazing one. There was like the management of this place, sitting on the, I remember they were all aligned, welcoming everyone, joining the team. It was a pre-opening property. People curious, you could see on people's faces. And I remember when everyone arrived, I remember that the leader of the place, I remember that was, I think the one that led the human resources, kind of welcomed everybody and kind of briefed everyone about the XCOM team that were there and who were in charge of what. And then we were later on segregated in different departments that we were working for. And I remember this is where now, the curiosity even sinked in more, like, okay, now what is this role I'm here to do? I remember I took this job very fresh and had past hospitality experience, very curious on what the role entailed. And I was like, just didn't know what to expect, what to do exactly. It's not like something that I even studied for or did some research about, because again, the titles are a little bit different from how we used to having them. So I was more curious what my role was all about. Though I knew it was a very junior role, it was a startup role in hospitality. It wasn't it was a role in the culinary, but again, not as a chef, obviously. It was more of a support of the chefs, more into steward role. So I didn't really know exactly what it entailed. So we were all briefed. I remember also created service staff that were handling, service related stuff, guest relations team that were more into the frontliners. Then, everyone is curious about what role they were hired for. So that happened, went into different kind of another rebrief again, met the leaders of our respective department segments. Then introduced again ourselves, getting to know each other more as we were working closely with small independent teams. It was really great. And at this point, still, people weren't really doing what they were hired for. It was more of like a collective responsibility. People kind of cleaning up, because again, the place was yet to open in about a month's time when everyone was onboarded. So there was a lot of, those kind of pre-opening tasks that are not actually your tasks. So people kind of are divided or are grouped in different groups to kind of do different roles, kind of clean up, do a lot of snagging of the places that yet to open. So there was a lot of, I would say, tasks that were created that needed to be done, which went on for nearly 2 to 3 weeks before everyone was kind of now even uniform in the departments or the respective roles are meant to do. Then I remember this is when reality started to hit me. Whoa, this is actually my job. This is actually my role in the kitchen. Wow, not to cook, but to clean up. Then wow, I was like, okay, yes, we've got to do this. We accepted something, and we, kind of hit me differently. I was like, this is not exactly what I expected, but again, I didn't know what to expect. So I was told, okay, this is what your role is. It's all about, sanity, cleaning in the kitchen, helping, being assistant of the chefs there. And then I was like, okay, I've got to take this. And I was positive about it, but I was also very kind of, I had this kind of fear in what to do and how to do it because, it's something new. I mean, most of my colleagues that I had then, we weren't communicating like very well because again, only a few of us could speak, a common language. Others were kind of struggling, obviously, with communication in English, and the people are coming from different backgrounds, didn't really know exactly how this was going to settle in. But, me here telling myself, I've taken up a role, thinking of its outcome, thinking of how great the whole arrival and the whole settling was. Now the actual job is there, and I'm feeling a bit scared about it because was not really sure if that was really the thing that would make me feel proud of coming all the way, to come and settle for. But I told myself, there has to be a startup for everything. And I remember when I had signed up for this job, I remember being given an opportunity to really shift from what I had actually kind of pitched for to something they saw an opportunity in me to maybe to develop in. But and I was like, no, I'm not going to change up my mind. I have zero experience in hospitality, and I believe a startup would be a great opportunity for me. Then, that reflection of thinking about that and now having to do what you signed up for made me feel like we've got to do this. So time went past by, slowly started getting used to it. Remember, I had two other colleagues that I'd mentioned that we were staying with. We were doing the exact same role together, so we were encouraging each other on taking it there together. They were also facing some fears and challenges that I was facing. They were like, wow, do you guys know what we signed up for? The student is a little bit different from what we thought it would be. Those perceptions of checking online, like a flight steward. I don't know how we would think of even being flight stewards while we didn't sign up for an airline company. It was a hospitality hotel industry. So I think it was fun, challenging. There's a lot of curiosity. There was a lot of learnings. There was a lot of machineries, and in the kitchen there was a lot of high-tech stuff that some we could not even handle with our own bare hands. I remember some we had to be instructed on how we could clean them up because some needed some specialized cleaning. Then again, we needed to train on this. So there was a lot of learning. There was a lot of curiosity. There was a lot of expectations of what was expected of us. And remember again, we were all new, so we were all on probationary periods where you'd also want to end up on the bad books where you were highlighted for not doing the right thing. Because again, you have this time frame. I remember back then it was 3 months to be confirmed whether to proceed further and get confirmed as a permanent staff, or again that kind of get extended and possibly either continue, get dismissed, or whatever the case is. But yes, time went past by. I got used to this. We started to understand other interests or developing other interests into different roles that we could see other friends were in, like either in more the frontliners or more in the back end. Then I started to understand, that
point where I remember I was signing up for this job where I was offered something on the front line to kind of go and develop. But, with that fear of, what if I change my mind and they're like, you don't even know exactly what you want. So, they kind of pass on it or you're not fit for the characters they were looking for. And that's why I stuck to what I'd actually signed up for, which opened me up further to kind of, start developing other interests, which obviously we will have different sessions and talk about that in like more clear beats. But then, yes, as time passed by, we kind of were encouraging each other, the three of us that were sharing the same apartment, that guys, this is a very tough role that we've signed up for, but we've got to be strong. We have to take it positively and we have to do it. And I remember time to time I could always give feedback back home how I found the job. I was very transparent in saying, it's really good, but it's very tough. It's not what I expected it to be like. It's a job that takes a lot of, that energy. And I remember I was quite young at that time. So I also didn't want to kind of inflict kind of that negativity of like, you're in a foreign country. You kind of, quote, suffering on what you're doing, how will you develop, how will you get out of it. And, knowing, obviously from backgrounds that we're from, you really have to step up and, find the positive in it or see the positive in it forcefully. There was no option of seeing the negative or letting that sink in more, as much as that's what I was facing a lot, personally, in that role. But, months went passed by, I passed my probation, we kind of linked, I synced well with the chefs that I was working with directly, with colleagues, with friends in the other departments. It went into 5 months, 6 months, all settled. I knew exactly what I needed to do, how I needed to do it. There were obviously the challenges of adapting to how different people actually work, especially the ones that were more senior than us, that we were reporting to directly in a daily role, like our supervisors then. Not all of them we were aligned with in terms of how they worked and how they communicated. Obviously, there were all sorts of clashes. You can imagine people from different backgrounds, people from different ethnic backgrounds. So there was a lot of challenges, especially in communication. But I think we stood firm through all this. And then the interest of now starting to look into departments that we weren't interested in started to slowly sink in. I remember 2 of my colleagues that we were sharing the same unit with the department. One of them had an opportunity to move to a different role in housekeeping, which was completely different because he was literally facing a lot of challenges with adapting to this. Then he had no choice but to shift, within the same kind of, I would say, kind of grading, but a different responsibility, which he was fine with. Then he moved to, we left 2 of us in this role. And I remember the second colleague as well had an opportunity to move again within the same role as the other colleague. So I was left alone. We were still flatmates, so they could talk about different, how they faced the responsibilities of housekeeping, and I was still talking about this whole same challenges that I was facing all through, working in the back end in the kitchen and how hard it was. And that kind of made me believe that sometimes, every good thing that people see out there in terms of how it's presented, there are people behind that force. There are people behind that presentation that really looks wow. There's someone at the back end that maybe never gets appreciated, never gets thought of, I would say. And those are like kind of some of these roles that people don't even think of, talk about. So I remember some of the colleagues that we were working with, either direct or indirect, like the waiters, the way they could present some of these dishes that were coming from the kitchen. And now the chefs that were actually cooking these dishes and preparing them, Then the hard workers, which were us, cleaning up everything that comes back and that leaves the kitchen, all the sanities, on the case, all the preparations, all the mise en places that were being prepared. We had to be behind all that first. So these are things that people get to talk about, But again, I was in that phase. We were in those hard challenges, those deep cleaning days where we had to deep clean certain machines with chemicals that some of them couldn't or weren't allowed to touch them in our bare hands. I remember we had to put on some specialized kind of gloves that we needed while cleaning those some of those equipments that we had there, and some of those very heavy pots that we could not even lift. 2 or 3 people had to be lifted by maybe 4 people to kind of have them cleaned. But again, those are things that I think build our characters differently, like with a kind of a strong resistance in how you approach things in general and how you approach life. You don't always expect to have like a free flow in how things work. Sometimes you build up with some sort of forces that are inbuilt or that build it up or build up a certain character that helps you have some sort of resistance in how you approach life in general. And I think that really helped me out. And I remember when 2 of my friends stepped into other roles, I started looking into what role I would find fit. I find myself fit in, And I remember a lot of my friends that we were engaging with, during breaks, whenever we were off, or maybe at the housing where we used to stay, were people that are working in frontline departments, in front office, at the back office, as telephone operators, as runners for service runners, like the services that people kind of order for, request for, the actual people that actually deliver the stuff. So that kind of was an interest more for me. So I remember showing an interest to this by starting up like some training opportunities in which we could be allowed to sign up and train out of your working hours or prior or post your working hours for a certain set of hours. I remember back then was like you needed to do about 140 hours, which I remember doing way more than that. With gratitude, like speaking positivity to myself as I did that day, with that opportunity that came about. Let's speak about that on the next story.